When I was a kid, treasure hunting deep in the woods seemed like a completely plausible endeavor. I thought we could go on some grand, fantastic adventure with wood nymphs and sprites. I quickly dismissed this idea because I lived and continue to live in Nevada, where we have more imported trees than any other state. Why do we have so many imported trees? Because we don't have thick forests. We have sagebrush and ATV tracks. And frankly, the first time I went camping, which was as an adult, I realized why my father never made us go camping. He knew it sucked. This is not the case for the kids in the next Goosebumps installment I'm covering, Legend of the Lost Legend. These kids are out for adventure and treasure hunting with their writer father. Yes, like Stephen King, writer R.L. Stine has added a writer character into his own novel. So let's dive right in and see what exactly is the Lost Legend. This is Rereading My Childhood, Goosebumps, Legend of the Lost Legend. The book barely starts and we have a signature cliffhanger on page 4. Our protagonists are a set of siblings, Justin and Marissa. They're trying to find their father but are lost in a snowy tundra aided only by Balto and the rest of the Iditarod. The sled dogs go off on their own, taking Marissa along for the ride. Of course, at the very beginning of chapter 2, Justin saves her and is fine. However, on page 9, we have another cliffhanger. They're floating on a piece of ice that broke away from the mainland. It doesn't matter, it's just a story their father, master storyteller and treasure hunter, made up about his children. It's going to be one of those, isn't it? The children ask about how they're going to get off the ice block. The father replies, I haven't thought of an ending to the story yet. Well, Stine, you have 120 pages left, so you better get cracking. They're camping in a fictional European country together while their father, famous writer, storyteller, and story collector Richard Clark is looking for the Lost Legend, which is a manuscript hidden away in a silver chest that has been lost for 500 years. Justin reasons that if he were to find the legend himself, he'd win affection from his father as well as fame and fortune. In the middle of the night, a giant dog enters their camp with a note that says, I know why you're here. Follow Silver Dog. There wouldn't be a story if the children refused to follow the dog, so of course they follow him deep into the woods. There are some shenanigans while they follow Silver Dog, including one where they get lost because they were following a deer instead. But the dog always howls and they get back on track. They also fall into a hole that they think is bottomless, but they easily climb out of it, so I think it was more of a pothole than a bottomless pit. The dog eventually brings them to a house, and when they enter, a woman yells, I've caught you! The woman is the woman on the cover, and she just has a bad sense of humor. Her name is Ivana, and she was the one who sent Silver Dog, and she wants to help the kids. But first, it's time for lunch. After they eat, she tells them that she has poisoned them. Just kidding, it's that classic attempted murder sense of humor. Anyway, she sends them on a quest into the fantasy forest, apparently the only thing she doesn't joke about. They're told to follow another dog named Luca. After they enter the fantasy forest, Luca proceeds to stand up like a human. If he shaved off all of the fur, put on some clothes, and got a haircut, he'd look like a young man, I thought. As I stared at him, he started to wave and point. This explains the emergence of furries in the millennial generation who read these books. Ivana leaves them with a note that says they should follow Luca and not lose him or they will be doomed. Of course they lose him and fall into a pit of nuts. However, they're not nuts, they're rat eggs that start to hatch. Turns out the mice were just little wind-up toys. They get away and a tree falls on Marissa. Marissa is fine, of course, it's a fake tree, probably made out of styrofoam. They also run away from bats and find a river with a plug. And finally, they battle giant cats that try to eat them. Justin is swallowed, but climbs his way out and distracts a giant cat with one of the wind-up mice from earlier. So now we have furries and the swallowing of a boy. This is some serious vor shit, and this continues to explain my generation. The siblings find their way back to Ivana's house, and when they enter, they find her asleep and unresponsive. We have the triumphant return of Luca. He is literally a dude in a suit. He takes off the suit in front of the children and expresses his congratulations. He proceeds to tell the children what has been happening. My family has lived in this forest for hundreds of years, Luca explained. It became our job to protect many of the treasures, and so we built a test forest to keep out those who were unworthy, to stop the people who don't deserve the wonderful treasures. Everything in the forest is fake or a wind-up toy or a marionette, like Ivana. That's correct. Ivana is a puppet. The trial was to figure out what is real and what isn't in the forest, and our siblings have passed. They are given a chest, and Silver Dog, who is an actual dog, not a man, and he leads them back to their camp. Not before getting lost for a second. With their father, the children open the chest to receive their gift. An egg. The ungrateful family marches back to Luca's house and demands an explanation. See, Luca thought they were in search of the eternal egg of truth. If they want the lost legend, they need to find the wanderers of the forest. Luca will tell them where to find the wanderers, but the wanderers might not part with the legend. The family finds the wanderers, and the second they ask for the legend, they gladly hand over the chest and leave. The family opens the chest and finds the manuscript. Excited, they unroll a piece of paper and read aloud the contents. Whoever owns the lost legend will be lost forever. The family looks around and realizes that they don't know where they are. Ha! How's that for a twist ending? I like this one, although it took some reflection. While I was reading it, I thought of the words of the father. I haven't thought of an ending to the story yet. As the children were dealing with random women in the forest, and man-dogs and rat eggs, I wondered if R.L. Stine had an ending to the story. The children are always getting lost, while following Silver Dog during the trials in the forest, and even toward the end of the book after they pass the trials. Stine is telling us early on that it's a legend about being lost, not a legend that is lost. The idea of a legend about being lost makes up for most of the book. However, without the twist, this book is a seemingly disconnected set of random events. The twist is great, and the kids' constant direction mishaps are a wonderful bit of foreshadowing, but the man with a fake forest has nothing to do with being lost. I wish that aspect was incorporated more into the legend itself. That being said, this book was a fun read and brought me back to those days when I was a kid looking out the window and wondering if there was a magical creature calling out to me. If only I would look hard enough.